Hello again, wrestling fans, and welcome to another edition of the Scumbags Wrestling Podcast. My name is Shawn. I'm coming to you from London, Ontario, Canada. And I know we finally caught up on everything after about 2 weeks off. On Monday, I got through all the stuff that I missed, but I didn't want to get too far off the track, and I wanted to make sure we still had our Thursday show as we're supposed to, per usual. So I want to thank you for being part of this on live Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook. Always appreciated. And of course, listening to us later on Stitcher, Spotify, iHeartRadio, or anywhere else you get your podcast from. We're a part of the Ontario Independent Podcasting Network. You're going to see some people from that and the Johners Podcasting Network being advertised later on in the show before we wrap things up. Give some shout outs to our friends over there, those two networks. And of course, we are sponsored by our friends over at CoolBet, who want to remind you to stay cool and bet responsibly. They sponsor all our shows that we have going on, including the Scumbags Wrestling Podcast, which you're listening to right now, This Week in History, which was on earlier this afternoon at noon, and of course, Fantasy Warfare Tournament. But the main thing that they sponsor is our Predictions League, where you can win this championship belt. Now, got some details coming up later on involving that very prize. We're nearing the end of season or section number 1 of this year's first inaugural season. And of course, the top two people are going to advance to the playoffs at the end of the season. And with a double shot coming up next weekend, we're going to have some extra prizes involved, so you can win on Saturday, you can win on Sunday, and win for the whole weekend. More details coming up on that over the next week as we lead into Impact Wrestling's Slammiversary and WWE's Money in the Bank. So, as I said, that's coming up in a little bit. And of course, we're going to look at the Ontario scene. But there is some news that has happened since Monday night to Thursday. And just want to catch up on all that before we lose more time. I know next week I hope to do actually a Saturday show to do previews for the weekend and be able to have updates on the go home shows for Impact Wrestling and SmackDown as we get close to those two pay-per-views next weekend. So that's what's going on right now. But yeah, starting off, unfortunately, we have to send out condolences to the friends and family of Chris Youngblood. He unfortunately passed away at the age of 55. He had worked in USWA and also WCCW and a few other places. He feuded with Steve Austin in USWA and stuff like that. Yeah, 55 years old, still very young to be passing away. I have not heard what the cause of his death is as of yet. Maybe there'll be an update by the next time we go online. I mentioned on Monday that recently Paul Orndorff's son, Troy, had posted a video of his father being in rough shape in a hospital and signs of dementia, just really frail looking. That video, thankfully, has been taken down. I've heard that he apparently, whether Troy did it himself or not, got taken down. But Troy also has Paul now living at his house and is taking care of him there. So I don't know if Troy really did it maliciously or not. But thankfully, it is down, and we try and save some of Paul Orndorff's dignity. But on the heels of that, Scott Casey relayed a message to Don Morocco, and Don Morocco put out on his podcast that unfortunately Terry Funk, who just had his 77th birthday, is suffering from dementia and is in an assisted living home for a variety of other reasons. His wife passed away in 2019. We would have seen her definitely in Beyond the Mat, getting ready for the daughter's wedding and the retirement however, whichever one that was by number during that DVD and documentary. She ended up passing away in 2019. And I guess since then he's had a few medical issues, forgetting a couple things, and his daughters were kind of concerned about him. And he's in a assisted living home with better care being helped for him. Um, the problem is with that, there's a little bit of conflicting issues on there. If you believe Don Morocco, he's just like really out of it and going downhill. Then you go to the other side, and it's Tommy Dreamer who's reporting on Busted Open Radio and his podcast, radio show that they do with Bully Ray and Mark Henry. That he's actually been in contact with Terry Funk, and he said even the following, and Tommy tweeted out, "Everyone needs to relax. I just got off the phone with Terry Funk. He's not in bad health. He loves everyone talking about him." Direct quote from Funker: "I'm currently sitting in an assisted living place with my thumb up my ass, whistling Dixie, but I don't remember the words." He was also on Busted Open Radio, as I said, and was talking about how Terry wants to make money out of this. He wants to, have him go against uh, Roman Reigns and all this other stuff. So he still has his faculties with him and still thinking wrestling wise. But regardless of where Terry is physically, mentally, we definitely want to send best wishes to Terry. Hopefully, things aren't as bad as others are reporting it to being, and that he, is comfortable where he is. He's 77 years old, and the guy's was never going to officially retire, I don't think, because there's no barbed wire in checkers and shuffleboard and bingo. But maybe it's time for him to slow down. People remember him for acting as well. I remember seeing him in Roadhouse and a bunch of other movies. So, yeah, just Terry's definitely had a full 77 years of his life, and best wishes out to him. Other wrestling stars even tweeted out their thoughts for Terry, including Mick Foley. He posted on Facebook, "Thinking of Funker. Yesterday was a tough one for me, along with many wrestling fans who learned that the great Terry Funk is in an assisted care facility battling dementia. To me, Terry will always be the greatest professional wrestler I have ever seen. He could have had great matches with just about anyone, and he made it so easy to believe. He has been my idol, my mentor, my close friend, and I worry that some of the crazy things we did together in Japan and ECW may have been a contributing factor to his current condition. A sobering reminder of the price we sometimes pay to do what we love. God bless you, Terry. You are a true hardcore legend, and the rest of us are all competing for second place." WWE put out, "Few have as much fight in them as Terry Funk, wishing all the best to the WWE Hall of Famer and his family." Court Bauer of MLW said, "Terry Funk, a genius. His love for wrestling, infectious. His contributions, endless. He's inspired and captured so many by being profoundly different. My love goes out to Terry today and forever. Forever." Yes. And he said that just biting Sonny's ass in that pic. Okay. Must miss that picture to be able to share with you. Ric Flair said, "Terry, we have wrestled for hours and have been friends for what seems like a lifetime. You never quit. Be strong, as always. I'm coming to see you soon." And of course, just to finish this all off, before moving on to the next story, is that Terry's own Twitter feed posted on his behalf. "Yes, Mr. Funk is currently receiving residential care for his multiple health issues, which do affect his mind as well as the rest of his body. As you can imagine, some days are better than others. He and his family appreciate all your kind words. Forever." So, yeah, like I said, take it easy, and hopefully Terry gets one more kick out and enjoys the remaining time, even if it is in assisted living. He's going to be in comfort at least. Big news coming out of AEW Dynamite last night. It appears that when Tommy End said he was not returning to WWE despite his wife Zelina Vega doing so last week on SmackDown, he wasn't lying. And had just released a video of him on his Instagram page in an asylum, killing a doctor, threatening another doctor that had issues, and basically said that he'd been in an asylum for the last 5 years, thought that his eye was still damaged, and they were just like, no, that's not true. And then he ended up killing the one doctor, and apparently has escaped the asylum, and is now calling himself Malachi Black. So instead of Aleister Black, he's Malachi Black. And he ended up showing up. Well, that video was somewhat, typed here. The video was some like how Jon Moxley, when he went from Dean Ambrose to Jon Moxley and then made his debut in AEW, Tommy End basically did the same thing with Malachi Black doing the video. And then last night during the Cody Rhodes strap match, the lights flickered, and then later on, Arn Anderson and Cody were out there, and the lights definitely went out this time. When they came on, Malachi was there and ended up doing a black mass to Arn Anderson, and then took out Cody. He's even playing up the injury still with his eye that happened to him in WWE at Extreme Rules when his eye was pushed into the steps by Buddy Murphy. So that's what's going on there. But then people are wondering what is going on with the fact that he was just released at the beginning of June. There's no way 90 days up. People wonder if he was one of the lucky people to get out of his contract and negotiate an early no compete clause, like 30 days. Some wonder if it was involving with Zelina Vega getting rehired, that he got released out of his no compete clause. Now it's turning out that Dave Meltzer, of all people, is saying that WWE apparently screwed up, and that's a story that he's been given. So, because he's definitely not a behind the scenes guy, so somebody clearly called him and gave him this story. But apparently, according to the story that Dave Meltzer is spinning, is the fact that when Aleister Black came up from NXT to the main roster, they didn't go into his contract and change the 30 days that NXT guys have to 90 days that the rest of the main roster people have when they get released. And so when he got released, he only had 30 days, and he lived up to those 30 days and showed up last night at AEW, and as I said, taking out Arn Anderson and Cody. So if you believe Dave Meltzer and his report, then somebody really dropped the ball, not only by getting rid of Aleister Black, and some people thought prematurely in WWE, and were hoping to get him to come back like they did Samoa Joe, but also somebody totally screwed up with the fact that 30-day no-compete clause was there instead of 90 days. So somebody obviously read his contract properly if that story is true, and Tony Khan and company took advantage of it and brought him in. Who knows? But we're just waiting to see what happens with another WWE superstar in the AEW, and see if, I'm not saying he doesn't deserve to be there because he wasn't pushed, but if unfortunately others AEW originals get pushed out of the way to give Aleister or Malachi Black a better spot. So he could have jumped the line, unfortunately, with this one. July 23rd episode of SmackDown is going to come to us live from the Rolling Loud Rap Festival in Miami at Hard Rock Stadium, along with another arena in Cleveland, Ohio. So somehow they're going to be simulcasting two different spots, almost like the whole WCW final day, and bouncing between the rap festival and Cleveland. The show will be split between the two locations, so the roster will also have to be split that way. And we'll see if any of the rap talent that is performing at the festival end up appearing on SmackDown as well. And I'm sure Fox would enjoy that if that is able to happen. Tony Khan was on a podcast recently talking about the dud of a pyro display at the ending of death match between Jon Moxley and Kenny Omega. He said the crew shit the bed and their presentation with their presentation and refunded AEW $100,000. He didn't end up paying for that botched display that happened that night. Even though the end result was a disaster, Tony does still plan to do more death matches in the future. If that happens, hopefully they figure out the pyro a lot better than what happened on this first endeavor into the death match in AEW. Jimmy Uso, here we go, was pulled over again for a DUI. This is not the best timing for him to be doing so, as he just got back on TV after being off for a year with an injury, and then got taken out by Edge this past Friday. He's somehow dropped the "I'm nobody's bitch" character. Jimmy disappeared, and now Jay disappeared. Jimmy now is supporting Roman, and instead of trying to be in between Jay and Roman and get him back. So they're all supposed to be on the same page if Jay ever returns. But now with Jimmy getting nabbed for a DUI for the fifth time or fourth time in 5 arrests, because he's been arrested 5 times since he came to WWE, it's not a good situation. And as I said, poor timing for this to happen. Now, a lot of people backstage are said to be publicly worried about Jimmy and the fact that the WWE this time hasn't made any statement about it, and normally would say things like, "Oh, they're responsible for their own actions," but WWE has not done that this time. I think there's genuine concern over what's happening, and they want to find help for Jimmy. I need to sneeze, so I'm going to play this one commercial for you guys.
How's everybody doing today? I'm Isaac of Such Good Shoot, and I just want to take a moment and I want to say that we are really grateful to be a part of the Wrestling with Johners Network, podcasting network. You can check it out, wrestlingwithjohners.com, and you can get all sorts of amazing shows on there. We're on there. You got Toilet Side Wrestling Talk with my man Brad Marcus. What do you say with DDJ? One of my favorites. You got Rope Break, Scumbags of Wrestling podcast. Love that shit. You got Pro Wrestling Tonight. You got Pull Up a Seat, a wrestling podcast. You've got Wrestling with Johners, Turnbuckle Arms podcast, and so much more. So go check that out. Go check us out at suchgoodshoot.com, where you can find all of our shows, all of our current stuff. We've got all sorts of written stuff, man. Shane's writing stuff, DDJ's writing stuff, Brad's going to be writing stuff. So we got written articles up there. You can find all the merch you can ever want. You got I'm Jewish with Isaac shirts. You got pillows. You got water bottles and mugs. So get out there, buy the merch, check us out. Check out Wrestling with Johners, Such Good Shoot live Thursday nights, 10:05, every fucking Thursday. So come on out, have some fun.
Yeah, I want to thank Isaac and Such Good Shoot for that commercial that we're able to throw in there, especially in times when my allergies are acting up. Just as Isaac said, 10:05 tonight, they are going to go live, and you want to check them out at suchgoodshoot.com. And tonight they have Heath Slater or Heath Miller as part of their show. So that's 10:05 tonight on Such Good Shoot. Anyways, and back to the news that I have here. Next week's Raw was recorded yesterday, as it was the last Raw with the crew in the Thunderdome. and it is the go-home show for Money in the Bank. It will include a third match of John Morrison against Ricochet. They just haven't had success in getting a victory over each other with the count-out victory the first time, disqualification this past week, and now this is going to be, I believe, a Falls Count Anywhere stipulation added to the match, and they're both supposed to be in the Money in the Bank. It's nice to see them getting a push. I'm just not sure about this whole constantly every week against each other, because that is very stale for the product. But as I said, I do enjoy the fact that they are getting a push. There's two guys I do definitely like, and I had the pleasure of meeting John Morrison a couple of years ago here in London at a Smash Wrestling event, and coinciding with Impact Wrestling that they did together for Twitch. So that's happening between them. Sheamus is returning to action, and he'll defend the U.S. Championship against Humberto Carrillo. AJ Styles and Omos will be facing the Viking Raiders in separate matches, with the titles on the line the following week on Raw's first show back in front of fans on July 19th. Hopefully that is going to be a huge show. Already getting the one title match put in there, and it is going to be the night after Money in the Bank. So a lot of hope and expectations for something to get fresh on Raw after this pandemic era gets completed, and hopefully they stop spinning their tires. Sadly, though, we saw the beginning of the feud between Jinder Mahal and Drew McIntyre. Drew had recently said on a couple of different interviews, including Sunday night's main event with Jason Agnew, that he would like to eventually be in a feud with Jinder Mahal. They have a lot of history, great friends. They should have been doing something when Drew was champion, but Jinder was out injured. They were members of 3MB, both former WWE champions. So there's a lot of things that they can build in there. But we got Monday night. Decent match with them, but when the henchmen on the outside, Shanky and I forget the other guy's name at the moment, I don't have it here, but when they got involved and caused the disqualification, I get because it's starting their feud, but then Jinder stole the sword. For those listening on this podcast, I am just shaking my head because the first thing I thought was, is this the 80s and early 90s where we're having feuds over stolen items? Like when Bret Hart feuded with PCO because his leather jacket that his mommy made him got taken? Or when Tatanka got his hair clipped or his feathers stolen by Bam Bam Bigelow and Rick Martel, respectively? I don't want to see a feud over a stolen sword. They have much more to offer than that. I just, like I said, I'm shaking my head and just in so much disbelief that they're going to go down this path. Um, so much wasted potential there if this is their story to get into the feud instead of reality with the fact that they were former tag team partners and one did better as the champion being respected compared to the other being crapped on by the fans. But this is where we're going. Let's enjoy this ride, hopefully. Tegan Knox was the loading battery on NXT. For the last couple of weeks, we saw a battery being charged, and I would find a different plug if it's taking a couple of weeks just to recharge that battery. But that's what we got for a couple of weeks on NXT. And during the women's tag team title match, we saw the lights go out, the battery fully charged, and it was indeed Tegan Knox going after Candice LeRae, because Candice LeRae was who cost Tegan almost a year of her career due to injury. And with that distraction, Indy Hartwell was easy prey, and the titles switched hands. So there's another new tag team champions in the women's division over in NXT, and I think I'm going to say the fourth one in like 2-3 months at most. So they're hot potatoing that title a little too much. I'm torn when the hot potato a title uh, in that regards, but I think in this one, it's showing how even and more contenders there are that you can spread it around. When it goes back and forth between some people and very short title reigns, back and forth, that kind of devalues it. I hope they don't get into that territory. I like the fact, as I said, that if there's a lot of people winning the title, it shows a lot of parity and competition within the division. So hopefully that is the case with the tag team titles there. Cameron Grimes unfortunately lost again in his quest to get the $1 Million Championship, and this time because he lost, he is now going to be the servant of LA Knight. It was kind of inevitable to have that happen. Yeah, this is going to build Cameron Grimes up even more as a sympathetic babyface rather than quickly just, oh, here's the title switch over, unless they were going to give up on LA Knight. I don't see that happening, but they maybe eventually will have Cameron break away from him, get the revenge for Ted DiBiase after Knight took him out, and take the title. But I think it's going to be good storytelling, some good vignettes coming up with these two, and yeah, a couple of weeks. We'll see if it's old news or if it's ingenious, but it is coming from NXT, which I have a lot more confidence in than the main roster of, especially Raw. These guys don't seem to know what they're writing, and it shows when you're hiring people who don't know about wrestling and you know more about comedy, and even that's poor comedy. The main event saw Adam Cole beat Kyle O'Reilly. Next week, the main event will see Karrion Kross defend the championship against Johnny Gargano with Samoa Joe as the referee. Now, Joe can't get involved unless he's provoked, but if things are happening with the fact that Karrion Kross has been brought into main event to basically get scouted to go to the main roster, uh, if Gargano doesn't take the title, then I see Cross dropping it to Joe at whatever takeover event happens around SummerSlam weekend. So it's going to be one of those two taking the title from Cross as he makes his way up to the main roster. It just will depend on if Scarlett is with him at that time too. Eva Marie said in an interview that she is happy to have had the support of the McMahon family since her first run in WWE, and they even kept in contact with her during her time away from WWE and were very supportive of her outside projects. She's, I guess, really close with the family somehow, and she was rehired back in October, contrary to what people are complaining about, the fact that she's hired and others got let go of. She'd been there for a bit, just waiting for creative to come up with the right story and time to bring her back on TV. And since coming back, she's been mentoring Dewdrop, Piper Niven, and Vince McMahon apparently is a fan of this current storyline on Raw, and especially with Piper, even though the fans are not. It's been reported by TSN yesterday that the possible partnership between the CFL and the XFL have fallen through. Many CFL fans were vocally against the idea of the two leagues working together. Some of the complaints were about the rules differences between the two leagues, and people wanted to keep the purity of the Canadian rules going on. I think it probably could have worked out if it was done properly, where they could be like how it is with Major League Baseball and having the National League and the American League. And when you're in National League Park, you play by the National League rules. When you're in American League Park, you play by those rules. And only when you're doing inter brand would that worry about the two. But yeah, unfortunately, that fell through, and I'm not totally surprised because the Rock and company need to get their feet under them with the XFL and figure out what they're doing. The CFL needs to progress and get going. They're two different leagues for timing as well, because the CFL starts in the late fall, then goes into winter, and the XFL starts after the Super Bowl, so that's late winter into early spring and going into the summertime. So they'd have to figure out their timeline for their games for this to be possible. But the CFL said that the door is not fully closed, but for the future, they're going to go their separate ways. CFL is due to start in August, and the XFL has pushed back their relaunch to spring of 2023, with their new owners being The Rock and his ex-wife Danny and their company. Um, yeah, I totally get that, and like I said, you gotta get your feet under you and know what's going on. You can't just swoop in and buy the XFL and be ready to go. There's a lot of things that are on the line. You got COVID getting through. You have to figure out who your players are going to still be. It's not like everything was put on pause and you walk in and press play and everything resumes the way it was just when COVID hit last year and had to shut down. So I would definitely want to see the XFL and The Rock succeed. It'd be great if they could figure out something between the two leagues and definitely spice things up, because CFL is much like the XFL and only has about 8 teams to it. So being able to have maybe 16 teams between the two leagues stretches out to at least 16 weeks plus playoffs. So yeah, let's see how that happens. AEW's Brian Cage was not happy being left off the promotional poster for Fighter Fest happening next week. He'll be defending the FTW belt in an interfaction matchup with fellow Team Taz member Ricky Starks, who is expected to get cleared. He's not currently cleared after his neck injury, but is expected to be by this Wednesday. This part of Brian Cage's face turn, where I'm going to say that he most likely will end up losing the belt and being kicked out of Team Taz, with Ricky taking that title over. Fighter Fest begins next Wednesday with night number 1 from Cedar Park, Texas. It's going to have, as I said, Brian Cage defending the FTW title against Ricky Starks, Penelope Ford against Yuka Sakazaki, John Moxley defending the IWGP US Championship against Carl Anderson. So you got a guy from AEW going against a guy from Impact with a Japan title, all involved, happening in an AEW ring. So sort of 3 companies all involved with that one match. But that's supposed to happen. And what I expect will be the main event of the evening, Ethan Page versus Darby Allin. These two guys know each other really well from Evolve and other independent circuits, and they're going to be facing off against each other in a coffin match. Hopefully this is not a dud like the Mimosa, which was just a splash, the fireworks that weren't, and of course the cardboard nesty plunge that Jericho took off the War Games style cage, the blood and guts cage. Even though he did end up hurting his elbow, it was still, hopefully this will be a lot more visually pleasing and come off as one will hope. Night 2 will happen the following week and will be on July 21st. And that's coming from Garland, Texas, which is just outside of Houston, I believe. And Britt Baker is defending the AEW Women's Championship against Nyla Rose. The rest of the card will get filled in next Wednesday during Fighter Fest night number 1. But that's going to be headlining night number 2. And then 3 weeks from then on the 28th, AEW will have Fight for the Fallen. That's their second one for that. And no matches have been announced yet. Speaking of Nyla Rose, who'll be challenging Britt Baker, she said on Twitter that she's had enough of getting solicited with dick pics being sent to her DMs. She's planning on opening a social media account where you need to enter your bank account information. If people end up sending her unwanted pics, then she's going to send them a lovely bill in exchange. I've seen other people that get pictures like that actually retweet them back to their family members, just so if those guys are married, that their wives end up seeing what type of pictures are being sent to celebrities or through the internet. So be lucky that's not happening to any of those guys yet. But yeah, I just don't get it. But who knows? That's their thing, not mine. Coming up this weekend is MLW returning to action in Philadelphia in the old ECW arena. They recently held their draft and are ready to start up their season again. And they're also having fans starting with Philadelphia. Also, Ring of Honor is holding their Best in the World pay-per-view this weekend, and matches include Danhausen Danhausen and PCO taking on the Bouncers, and Demonic Flamita taking on Ray Horace. Those two matches are going to be on the pre-show, and then the main show has Jay Lethal facing Brody King one-on-one. Josh Wood takes on Silas Young in a last man standing match. EC3 battles Flip Gordon in a singles action. Tony Deppen defends the ROH TV title against Dragon Lee. Jonathan Gresham defends his Ring of Honor Pure Championship against Mike Bennett. He'll have Maria Kanellis in his corner. The Ring of Honor six-man tag team titles will be on the line as Dak Draper, Dalton Castle, and Eli Ism challenged the team of Shane Taylor Promotions for the six-man tag team titles. The Foundation are going to face Violence Unlimited in a Fight Without Honor match for the tag team titles. And now that the Briscoe brothers are back on the same page with each other, they're teaming together to go against Brian Johnson and PJ Black. And the main event will see Roosh put his Ring of Honor championship on the line against Bandito. So that's Ring of Honor's Best in the World pay-per-view happening this weekend on Sunday. And yeah, available everywhere you get pay-per-views from, and I believe also the Fight TV app. So that's what's going on there. And then, as I said at the beginning of the show, the following weekend is going to have a double shot for our Scumbags Prediction League, and that's presented by our friends CoolBet. Play cool, bet responsibly, and you can find out different ways of making sports bets and gaming with CoolBet. First is going to be on Saturday, July 17th. Impact Wrestling will have Slammiversary. The main event will see Sami Callihan challenge Kenny Omega for the Impact Championship, plus many more matches. And then on Sunday, July 18th, WWE will have Money in the Bank, featuring a men's and women's ladder match, plus the top four men's and women's titles will be on the line in singles action, including an I Quit match with Bianca Belair taking on Bayley. And we'll have to see. I've heard one report saying that this means more of an I Quit stipulation for Bayley than just saying I quit. But that has not been established yet. So purely rumors. Hopefully it's not true. Or she's just taking some time off. That's totally understandable. We saw that with Sonya Deville. And we'll see where that goes. Regardless of, and here's the news with the Prediction League, should I say, regardless of your being new to the Prediction League or have been there from the start, everyone will have a chance to win a prize for the most points of the night for Saturday and Sunday, and also a bigger prize for the most points for the weekend. for the two shows. There's going to be some special categories, especially with the fact that Slammiversary has the potential of having some of the WWE guys that were released coming in like they did last year after Black Wednesday. And so we'll have a chance to guess some extras that might show up. So there's going to be more details, as I said, this weekend coming up on our Facebook page along with our website, scumbagswrestling.ca. So get your predictions in and enjoy both shows, Slammiversary and Money in the Bank. Now I'm going to check out of here one more time with a couple commercials from our friends over at the Johners Podcasting Network and the Ontario Indie Podcast Network, and we'll start talking about some of the stuff coming up in and around Ontario and all the podcasts that are available.
Here at Toiletside Wrestling Talk, we interview the top wrestling stars on the independent wrestling circuit with questions including, who exposed you to wrestling? Were you nervous the night before your first day of training? Did your family support your wrestling dream? Are you a witch? For $700,000, would you legally marry a horse? Have you ever cried from a Vin Diesel movie? These questions and much more on Toiletside Wrestling Talk.
Okay, and one more. For Matthew Terry with It's Time to Fight.
Did I buy Isaac cookies and bananas? Did I even get a bill from those people? Did I set the DVR?
I really hope Grandma's okay.
I forgot to mow the lawn again.
My wife's not
Should
gonna
I go
leave
see
me.
the doctor?
Who in the hell
asked her to? Please, God,
Should Isaac have more friends?
Really that bad?
Why couldn't we
I
not?
should.
How much
go
is
to
that
the doctor.
repair gonna
Did I
cost
buy
me?
Isaac
Did I
cookies
even
and
really
bananas?
shouldn't have.
Who
Did
hell
I
is
pay that
Delaware?
bill?
Do they
How
know?
much is that repair
do
gonna
they
cost?
know?
I
What
really
do
hope
they know?
Grandma's okay.
Do they know?
All right, stop!
Remember what the doctor said. When you get overwhelmed, go to your happy place.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's time to fight! Put up your hands and fight. You know there's something ain't right.
And you can find your happy place with It's Time to Fight podcast. Go to itstimeToFight.ca. Fans of ours have seen Matthew Terry as a part of our Fantasy Warfare tournament, and we look forward to inviting him back for another edition of that in the future. So check out It's Time to Fight podcast from Matthew Terry. Now, I got some information on stuff happening here in Ontario, but there's been a little bit of news yesterday that came up that I wanted to get to before getting into the fun side of things. And got a notification on my Facebook and a little bit of a shout out to AC Coca and Battle Arts Academy here. Mississauga and the GTA area were hit recently with a huge storm, and this storm caused issues on the roof of Battle Arts. A pipe blew, flooding the gym inside, and this has been a difficult time for the gym to stay afloat during COVID. We know that they just recently had the changeover in ownership where AC Coca, along with Hamilton Wrestling Entertainment, ended up taking over Battle Arts Academy and then brought back Anthony Corelli as partner. Anthony had sold it originally, and then they brought him back in. So it's been a difficult time with COVID, and they're just getting ready to reopen because Ontario is reopening here, and then they get hit with this. So if you are a fan of any talent in the GTA area, in Ontario, in anywhere in wrestling for that matter, a lot of people have come through the Battle Arts Academy. Destiny Wrestling has been out there. Now we have Hamilton Wrestling Entertainment making their stake in there. The guys over at Go Hard Pro use that area for their event that happened on Christmas. So there's a lot that happens over there in that area. So with that said, they have insurance, but the costs are going to go beyond what insurance can cover. As I said, they're also trying to get restarted once this pandemic reopenings are able to happen. And there's been a GoFundMe page set up for this campaign. It has been started to help with the cost. And if you can help in any way, please go check out their campaign and help out. There's a ad on our Facebook page. There's one also on the Battle Arts Academy, and it was also started, I believe, by Shiloh. And if you're a fan of hers, they'll get you into that area to find this GoFundMe. Everybody goes through some rough times, and we love wrestling and want to get going. I've contributed to it. I want to encourage all our fans to do so too. So just check out Battle Arts Academy, check out Shiloh, check out our Scumbags Wrestling page. There's many ways that you can get involved and get to that GoFundMe and help them out. So now that that part is done, got a trailer for you. And as you saw there, that is the season 3 trailer for Backyard Pro. Dial B for Backyard. It returned last week on the 30th, and tonight, right now, actually, it's available on YouTube. So once you're done here, go over to Backyard Pro's YouTube channel, and you can catch up with episode number 2 of season number 3. Season 3 only has 3 episodes, so the next one is the following week, and there's 7 matches in total, along with some Rough Enough with the Dancing Weapon. Today's episode number 2, was released about 50 minutes ago, and it has a Dancing Weapon versus Jay Wheeler, Kyle McKenzie's music video, a 4-way pay dirt number 1 contenders match, and more from the Rough Enough guys and the training going on there. Like I said, they're just graphic wise. Dancing Weapon against Hot Shit Jay Wheeler, and the Fatal 4-way has Rob Banks, Cornelius Rutherford, Jeff Hardy, and Moondog all going against each other, and that's part of season 3. Dial B for Backyard of Backyard Pro. We also are part of helping them get off the ground and cover some of their coverage for costs. You can go over to youtube.com/Backyard Pro to watch the show. You can also go to their GoFundMe page and help out with the production costs that they had, and ProWrestlingTees.com/Backyard Pro to support them and get your Backyard Pro merchandise, all at Pro Wrestling Tees. Looking at some of the great podcasts that are going on right now, just recently released, George Mackay had Fred Rosser recently, and just the other day released the Pope Elijah Burke as part of Straight Talk Wrestling. And the mini host has Danny Limelight and Billy Starks in 2 separate 5 questions with the mini host. Check those out. Join Lewis Carlin daily for wrestling updates on the Alliance Pro Wrestling Network. It's available on Facebook and on YouTube And Lewis always has a daily update. And if breaking news happens, he always pops in with more information that way. So check out Alliance Pro Wrestling Network for all your wrestling news on a daily basis. Episode number 94 of This is Brandon is out, featuring Shane Saber. That's Brandon Caulfield, also known as Holden Albright. He has Shane Saber with him this week, and you want to check that out. You saw a commercial just a couple minutes ago with Matthew Terry. Join Matthew as he's a guest in episode number 2 of the Cornerstone Wrestling Podcast. They look at wrestling in the Ottawa and Gatineau region. Shaw Wars presents Crazy Wrestling Road Stories Volume 2. There's about, I want to say, a dozen different talent from all around Ontario, including Knights of the Round Circles, or Knights of the Squared Circle, Ryan Knight, and a bunch of other talent as a part of that, telling different road stories as part of Shaw Wars Crazy Wrestling Road Stories Volume 2. Gilmy Talks dropped another episode this past Tuesday, and it has Travis Moore as his guest. So check out Gilmy Talks. It's My House podcast with Killian Dane as a special shoot interview there. They've actually been picking up a lot of steam. I've seen different shows of theirs being quoted in other wrestling websites. So they're getting some good traction with some stellar talent being on there. I believe Mark Marrow was recently a guest. So yeah, check out My House podcast. And this week having Killian Dane. John Scott has Jeremy Prophet on the Wrestling with Johners podcast. Plus, let's see, where's that one? The Johners Podcasting Network is the special, no, I don't have it there, is proud to sponsor the Wrestle Carnival with Ring of Honor show happening on September 12th in Nottingham. It will feature stars from Ring of Honor and the UK scene. Matches from the show will be streamed on ROH, week-by-week show. And we want to let you know that Johnner's Podcast Network is also connected with Graps. It's a sponsor of Wrestle Carnival, and if you get to their website and find some merchandise, use the code Johners and get 15% off. So use the code Johners at checkout for 15% off apparel at grapsapparel.com. Sorry, I got distracted for a second. Speaking of apparel, we have our t-shirts and everything at our Pro Wrestling Tees store, prowrestlingtees.com/Scumbags Wrestling. You got 4 designs there, including the independent wrestling comic book cover featuring 22 stars of the Ontario independent wrestling scene. And those t-shirts sold from that one, the money will go to Steven's Wrestling Journey, Steven's Hearts for Carry fundraiser that is going on right now. So check that out. HWE Country Carnage. That is coming up during this summer. And HWE TV champion Johnny DeLuca will face off against his toughest challenge to date, the Diamond Tiger, Kobe Durst, with the title on the line. There's also going to be Coco's Cabana, featuring the Wavemaker, Kyle Boone, as a part of Country Carnage. And, of course, we have Silk and Stone in tag team action against Airstrike. Be on the lookout for more details and dates and matches from HWE as they present Country Carnage this summer. You want to check out our friends over at What Do You Say with DDJ? Got a great podcast going on over there. A lot of wrestling news and interviews. What Do You Say with DDJ? friends of ours through the Johners Podcasting Network. And as we've been talking about for the last little while, more information coming up with the All Ontario Cup. It's 30 Ontario wrestlers, a showcase of the best in the province. It's being held by Barrie Wrestling, but it's covering wrestlers from all over Ontario, some who have never even worked for Barrie Wrestling before. It's going to be a huge event. It is a pay-per-view style event. For $10 minimum, you can get 29 matches for just $10. Now, you can go over to their Indiegogo page and find out more details. There's different levels of support you can give to them, and each level, as per most things with Indiegogo, you get different perks as you go up the ladder. We have a major announcement coming involving that over the next couple of weeks once it is released by our friends over at Barrie Wrestling. So we got that going on, and just added this week, since Monday, I should say. So we have 3 more additions, include Bone Crusher Steve Brown, longtime fan favorite Anton Alexiev, and the Golden Gun Mark Wheeler. They're joining already announced talent of the lead official Brad Myers, the Young Bull Junior Benito, the Psychonaut Travis Moore, who is our guest on Gilmy Talks right now. There's also one of the dirtiest players in Ontario, Stratos, the Ontario veteran Tornado, the Queen of Crazy, Addie Starr, one of the quiet leaders on the Ontario scene today, Gabriel Ferweza, the relentless John Atlas, the Ontario favorite Shane Saber, the boss in Ontario, John Greed, Black Lavender, Lionel Knight, the current reigning and defending Barrie Wrestling 3 Pistols champion, Pretty Ricky Wilde, the high-risk hero, Rip Impact, the return of Kirk Warmack after a 5-year hiatus, plus the Diamond Tiger, Cody Durst, and the anti-hero, SOS. So be on the lookout for announcements from us about this, where I'm going to put together a full show about this tournament that will definitely hype things up. We're proud sponsors of it. 30 stars from all over Ontario, the All Ontario Cup, and happy to be a part of it. We're going to be able to break down some of the talent that is going on, break down some of the tournament brackets. I hope to have Stephen here on the show again, and maybe a couple other fans of Ontario wrestling be a part of it for this, and we'll end up seeing what's going on. Got more announcements coming of talent, and just a lot of exciting things happening as restrictions start lifting here in Ontario, and this is one of the ways of bringing back wrestling to the fans in Ontario and the area. So keep up to date with some of those things going on. Once again, the All Ontario Cup Indiegogo page is up and running. The event will be a pay-per-watch show like they used to be in pre-pandemic times. 30 wrestlers and a large crew of people need to get paid. The show times and dates will be announced around mid-July, and we're almost at mid-July. If you have questions, feel free to message Barrie Wrestling's Facebook page or Shawn Gibson. So be on the lookout for all that. And that's more entrants to come. $10 for 29 matches. You can't go wrong with that. And we've been starved for live wrestling from Ontario and the stars that we love. So make sure you get there. And just a reminder that Hard Knocks Wrestling Academy has been hard work preparing for official opening. They're happy to announce that they're officially reserving spots for the end of this month, July. If you're interested in becoming a professional wrestler, Hard Knocks Wrestling Academy is the place to go. With top-of-the-line facility, in-ring training, weight room, and incredible trainers, Tyson Dukes and Shane Saber. It's been all over our show this last part of it. 3 times I've mentioned Shane. Great guy. And you can learn from Shane if you go to Hard Knocks Wrestling Academy in Listowel, Ontario. Prices start as low as $50 a session. They've partnered with Knights of the Squared Circle to provide more ease of access for booking that will allow them to launch in the coming weeks. For the time being, message them directly for all inquiries and to reserve your spot. So that's Hard Knocks Wrestling Academy, just opening up in Listowel, Ontario. And finally, as mentioned earlier, before I get out of here, is our friends over at Such Good Shoot. Isaac is inviting all of you to come over at 10:05, so just about an hour from now, and they are going to have Heath Miller, formerly known as Heath Slater, on their show at 10:05. Go to suchgoodshoot.com for that show and more information. So I want to thank you for joining us, whether you're watching on YouTube, Twitch, or Facebook. We're always available on Stitcher, Spotify, iHeartRadio, or anywhere else you get your podcast from. We definitely appreciate your support. We appreciate the support of our friends over at CoolBet, reminding people to stay cool, bet responsibly, and you can always buy our merchandise, which I'm working on some more designs, but over at Pro Wrestling Tees for our 4 designs that are currently available. And aside from Pro Wrestling Tees, I'm looking at a little side store on our Facebook, on our website, which you can get different things like mugs and hoodies and stuff like that, that unfortunately I cannot get through Pro Wrestling Tees. So be on the lookout for announcements involving that. And that seems to be everything I got for this week. I know we did a podcast on Monday, so we had a lot of things caught up on. We've already run an hour, so I'm really happy about that. And you can always check out our website for the Scumbags Prediction League. Next weekend, we have a double shot. So thank you again, and have a great night.
If you want a variety of wrestling news and history, look no further than the Scumbags Wrestling family of shows. On Wednesday nights at 6 p.m., join Shawn, Steven, and Jonesy as we look for the best of the best and break it all down in a unique tournament format on Fantasy Warfare Tournament. Then, Thursdays at noon, take a look back at the rich history of our great sport with This Week in History. Relive title changes, births, deaths, and some of the best events of all time. Finally, join us for the latest in wrestling news, show results, and predictions Thursday nights at 8 p.m. for the Scumbags Wrestling Podcast. The Scumbags Wrestling can be found on Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, and Instagram, along with our audio versions on Stitcher, Spotify, iHeartRadio, or anywhere else you get your podcasts from. We're a proud part of the Ontario Indie Wrestling Podcast Network and the Johners Podcast Network.